So the hashes are generated through this mint, which relies on this pseudorandom hash function. And then, so you've got the hashes on chain associated with the token IDs, but we still don't, or it's only going to be in the front end that they're going to be generating the WebGL artwork, right? Like, how do you manage to get it? I know there was also like an Arweave tie-in, and they are also viewable on OpenSea. So how does it get all glued together?
Yeah, great question. So basically, we have this attribute on the contract called Arweave ID. You can see that's set on Etherscan right now. And the idea is that like this entire generative art script is stored on Arweave at the location that is, on the contract right now. So you can go in Arweave, like go to this, 6QM capital WC, et cetera, like identifier, look up that identifier, and that has like this bundled version of the art. And then you can basically, through what I believe is a query parameter, like send in an arbitrary hash for it to render. So even if Solvency.art like went down, you could always go to Arweave, and then you could send in the hash. You could grab the hash from the contract, because like you said, there's a mapping of token ID to pseudo random hash. So you would just grab the hash from the contract, send it in as a query parameter to the art code that you would grab from Arweave, and then you would be able to see your piece. And then all the images that it's loading in that version that's bundled up on Arweave are also stored on Arweave. So it kind of allows for quote unquote permanent storage, as long as like Arweave is still around, that these pieces will always be accessible. So that's kind of like the blockchain historian kind of way of like preserving the piece as long as we can. But practically, you need to have an easy integration for OpenSea to be able to understand this piece. And like this was before I think even animation URL was an attribute surface like through the token metadata. Like it was only images and videos. But even animation URL, I think the script is too heavy to really support that inline in OpenSea.
Yeah,
And
probably.
also, like, I think it'd be a shame to kind of view this like very beautiful big piece in such like a little rectangle or square that OpenSea allows. So, but we wanted an easy representation of this for people to see in their mobile wallets on OpenSea. So basically, we had a background job running that would look for every new mint that occurred, like look at the ID and look at the token hash, like from the on-chain event. And then we had these machines that had high quality GPUs running that would open up Puppeteer, like a code controlled version of Chrome, like let the artwork run, and then like take a video of it for 10 seconds, and then grab that video, upload the video, and then mark that in the database that the video has been uploaded, as well as take a screenshot. So then when you hit up our the metadata URI, like solvency.art/API/whatever your token ID is, it would basically be like, has this background job finished rendering this artwork? If it has, then surface this like video and this image that represents the artwork that was generated through this like automated background worker that was generating these kind of like high quality views of it that people could see and see.
I love how insanely complicated this project is to pull off a GPU farm just to get the rendering happening in real time. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was really interesting because like I'm an early Artblocks user, like I'm an official like advisor to Artblocks. I've been working closely with Snowfro like since they launched on mainnet. And when we were doing this project, we had a lot of conversations about like we really took a hard look at evaluating with Snowfro too, like, is this an Artblocks project? Can this be done on Artblocks? Because they already had all the infrastructure to do this, right? Like they have the background. Well, they have some of the infrastructure to do this for certain types of pieces where like they already had the code to run these background workers, take the screenshots, surface the data to OpenSea, et cetera. But what it came down to is that like they wanted everything to be stored on the Ethereum blockchain. So like they want to keep it pure and like not have these, but we had so many assets, like all of these big photographs and like a huge amount of JavaScript that just literally wouldn't fit on the Ethereum chain. It wasn't practical to do it. So because we had to store stuff on Arweave, like it wasn't a good fit for Artblocks, but also we wanted complete control over everything, right? We wanted to be like, hey, when we render these video previews, we want to make sure they're done on good machines, and we want to control all that code. We don't want to defer that to an external company, right? So we decided to take everything in house, and we basically, over the course of, it was like 2 months that we were working on it, but like just like a handful of weeks towards the end that I was really kind of like full time on it, where we just basically had to rebuild a lot of infrastructure that art blocks already had, but we had to build it from scratch for ourselves just to support this one project. So I think that that gave us a lot of superpowers to really tightly control all the different aspects, from the front end that you're browsing to the minting experience to the preview renders that were really important to us and pretty hard to get right. And I think it really kind of gave a lot of power and beauty to the project as well that I think people recognized.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of the most recognizable, beautiful projects from that era, and it's really cool to see all the bespoke stuff. So on the token URI, you're using the classic concatenation of like a base URI and then token ID, because you're able to do the HTTP solvency.art /API/ and then token ID. But if I were to hit up the Arweave version, I'm really directly hitting up the JavaScript that generates I'm not going to get the metadata back. Is that right? I'm going to get the WebGL, but not the metadata that something like OpenSea would need. Is that how it works?
Yeah, exactly. Like the Arweave is purely just rendering the artwork, and like technically you could expect the JavaScript variables and like get the get the actual attributes, but it's just for rendering the piece. So I think the base URI is like updatable by the owner of the contract, who is Ezra. So like the idea being like if he, and it might be actually time to do this. This is really at Ezra's discretion. You can change the base URI, but then you can also lock the base URI to say like, I'm never going to change this again for it to be permanent, right? So the idea being that like we'll use Solvency.art /API/ whatever ID, like while we're running the background workers, like until it mints out and like until we generate all the thumbnails. But now like those attributes and like those thumbnails like are static. So we could, and I should speak to Ezra about when he wants to do this, we could basically take all of that metadata and all of those images, like put it all on Arweave, and then just change the base URI to be like an Arweave identifier, so that like that metadata, you don't have to rely like on an HTTP server. All of that metadata could just be on Arweave, and then if he so chose to, he could choose to lock that to ensure that it would like never be changed.
It's very cool. Once the API is sort of settled, you could just write the whole thing to Arweave and walk away.
Exactly. But you need that interim, like where you are rendering from your own backend, because like you want to be showing people like previews as their render even before it's minted out, or like before the background job finishes all the jobs.